Hey all, today we're going to do Threefold Section 3, Part 8, and I'm going to go ahead and do 9 too because they're both really short. So by the end of today, we're going to finish with Section 3, and then tomorrow we're going to start Section 4. All right, let's jump right in. Guinness sensed he was still on Junyo's shit list, but he couldn't blame him for it. The thought of it annoyed him, but he found himself less pissed than before. Junyo was a man who kept to himself. He couldn't fault him for that. When you realized your family let you down, you had to deal with that shit in your own way. With a slight wave of his hand to them, Guinness went and searched for some food. "I'm missing something," Hugo said, thinking out loud and catching his and Junyo's attention. "Why? Why did your dad give you your crest and tell you all this? What he told you doesn't have anything to do with you going after Mateo, but everything to do with the three of us." Guinness knew the answer to this question. "Protection," he and Junyo said simultaneously. They glanced at each other. "Jackson, Akura, and Mateo are manipulating not only us, but our parents too?" Hugo asked. "That can't be right." "Their parents were probably trying to protect the three of them from Jackson, Akura, and Mateo," Guinness thought. "Yavera will yield more answers," Junyo said. "We should make our way there, cover more ground, eat later." Guinness noted Junyo's eye contact. He spoke to him like he was issuing a command. Looked like they were about to have that rematch right now. Hugo glanced back and forth between the two of them. "Guinness, the overuse of your cryo energy has put you out of action for a while. And Junyo, you're too preoccupied with that rifle to put much effort into a fight. You're both at a disadvantage." He and Junyo looked in Hugo's direction. "Let's travel for a few more hours," Hugo said. "After that, we'll get some food." Breaking the tension, eh, Hugo? He realized neither he nor Junyo were denying his claims. "What do you think?" Hugo asked. "Is that a good plan?" "Eat now," Guinness said, "or eat later. It doesn't matter to me." No need to argue with Hugo after he healed his wounds. Hugo wanted this situation to run smoothly. And even though Guinness wanted to make it run smoothly with his fists, he decided to try it Hugo's way. He did owe him one, but they were even now. Actually, if he were keeping track, Hugo owed him one. He did help him against that Everguard attack. But because that hadn't gone so well, he realized he hadn't counted it. Best not to bring it up. They trekked toward Yavera. So that was part 8, and now I'm going to do part 9 real quick. Several hours passed in silence. Eventually, they set up a small camp. "I'm going to grab lunch," Guinness said. "I'll get enough for the three of us." "Really now?" Hugo said, surprised. He laughed. "I can still change my mind." "I'll shut up then," Hugo said, laughing as if he didn't believe he would. Guinness waved him off and walked off into the wilderness. While he hunted, he found himself getting lost in his head. What the fuck happened? He slammed a fist against a nearby tree. He remembered his family, his life. Everything was good. Everything worked. How he ended up in Lunastra with a jackass and a head case didn't click in his head. Mateo was responsible for breaking up the family. And whether he wanted to or not, Guinness had to fix things. Except Mateo. except Jackson derailed his plan. No, they hadn't. They changed it, but he'd get a hold of Mateo. As much as staying with Junyo and Hugo irked him, he had to stick it out. He, Hugo, and Junyo shared a common goal. They needed to reach their siblings. Hugo and Jackson. Hugo probably wanted to reach Jackson to find out what happened to him and find out what drove him to Cyro energy and to attack Everguard. Junyo, the story behind his crest and the rifle. Junyo probably wanted to know why some woman had given him his crest. She could be part of one of the three families and been unable to have kids, but that wouldn't explain Akura's involvement. Akura gave Junyo a rifle from their father, which Junyo believed held answers. Once he found his answers, they might tie everything together. Hugo wasn't a head case, but a level-headed man who did his best to keep peace. Jackson said he was something like him, but Guinness began to doubt it until he thought Jackson might have meant in terms of ability. If that was true, he'd have to wait and see. Junyo wasn't a jackass, a total jackass, but a cautious man who wasn't one for disrespect either. Hard to tell how it affected him, but no doubt the news Guinness had delivered put Junyo's mind to work. The three of them wanted to know how their parents were involved because somehow they were. The stuff that separated them didn't matter. He had to see that. But their common goals, search for answers, the truth, they were bound. Guinness didn't want to believe it, but in the back of his head, he already accepted that as a truth. He didn't see it as important, so he decided to ignore it. They had to find all the pieces of this puzzle, the pieces their siblings threw across their table, and put the puzzle together. Teresa's life depended on it. He glanced at the tree and apologized for slamming his fist against it. He watched the leaves rustle. He sensed the nearby animal that was going to be lunch. After he caught the wild boar, he went back to camp. Hugo sat by a small fire he presumed he started. Junyo sat close by, examining the rifle. Guinness went to work on preparing to cook the meat. "Nice haul," Hugo said. "Thanks for bringing it in. We're going to eat good." This goofy smile spread across his face that made Guinness fight the urge to punch him. Junyo nodded his thanks. Hugo and Junyo were different from the people he normally dealt with, including his 5 siblings, especially Mateo. Hugo's attitude toward life reminded Guinness of his younger brother Silvestre, and even if he hated to admit it, Junyo and Mateo were made of the same stuff. If he didn't treat them like brothers, he had to at least stop treating them like enemies. That wasn't him. After the smells of cooked meat settled in the air, Hugo, Junyo, and Guinness sat around the fire and ate. All right, that was the end of Part 9 and Section 3. So tomorrow, I hope you'll join me again, and we'll start Section 4 to see what is next in store for Hugo, Junyo, and Guinness. Thanks for listening. Bye.